Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today I'm going to be talking about the fourth order I made off of the Criterion films. Now, this one was a little different because the order I made was out of Barnes & Noble instead of from the Criterion collection. Now, this is something I want to stress that's very important, actually. The reason I have these movies, all of these Criterion films, is not because I'm rich and famous, like I have so much money hiding in my bank account. It's because I purchased these films off of the 50% deals that they had for the Criterion films, which I actually recommend is the best way to get these films. Because I understand that money is very, very tight for a lot of people. And unfortunately, these movies are purchased in America, so you do have to pay a shipping cost, but I do recommend you buy out of Barnes & Noble. While the Criterion has a loyalty program, how it works is you have to purchase... For every dollar you spend, you get a point. And for every point you get it. If you get 500 points, you get a $50 gift card, which is good. However, the money that you spend does not count towards shipping. That doesn't include on anything else. And Barnes & Noble actually has a really good shipping policy. The next two films I'm going to talk about, I purchased them for the regular 50% off for $20 instead of $40. But the shipping cost for them actually went for the films together. I didn't have to pay for any other crazy shipping costs per film. It was all stacked in together. So I highly recommend you check out Barnes & Noble for any 50% off Criterion films listing. And if you want to be a part of the Criterion loyalty program, do it. It's absolutely great. I do recommend that you check the actual website of the Criterion collection for these movies because it gives you a huge amount of information on all the films, including all the supplements, all the essays, all the formats that are the best for you. You can even choose which format you want off the Criterion website, which is how I bought films like Ace in the Hole. Enough about the sales pitch. I am now going to talk about the two films that I purchased from Barnes & Noble. The first movie was a film that I believe is the reason I was interested in film restoration. It was the film that got me first curious about what film restoration was. I remember hearing something with Martin Scorsese about a particular film, a film that he absolutely loves, and I was like, that's interesting. Why does he love this movie? And the reason that I was curious was because this was a dancing film. This is a film that had a majority of... It was a musical kind of film from the 40s. And it was a big dance show. And it was called The Red Shoes. Now, I didn't know anything about this movie at all. But this was striking when I saw the image. Most of the thing that usually gets me with Criterion films is usually the image that they have on the cover. And this one was one of them. It was really shocking to me. I was more interested in the film more than the supplements for this one, to be completely honest. I haven't read the essay yet. I'm about to. And then I was watching a few of the supplements. I haven't watched all of them. And, I just realized there's a little bit of plastic wrapping on this one. It's an unwrapping moment. I saw this movie while I was sitting in my tap studio. They have a Blu-ray player, so I put it on while I was doing some homework. And I was watching it, and within 10 minutes I had to stop doing my homework, and I paid close attention. And this movie on a whole is one of the most impressive films in terms of the Hollywood... This is made by Michael Powell and Emmerich Pressburger. I don't know anything about Emmerich Pressburger, but Michael Powell, I do know. He has made Peeping Tom, which is one of my favorite horror films of all time. And the reason... Where you might have heard Peeping Tom, it was a film that was made in 1960 in England. The same time that Psycho was made, and it was very similar to Psycho. And that was a movie that actually destroyed Michael Powell's career. It was terribly panned. But this is a movie that was really, not even necessarily just successful, but it was not considered to be a hit when it came to the people who were part of the studio, and yet I think it was successful, and it was nominated for a few Oscars, and it won 2. This is a really great film. Similar to what I was talking about with Beauty and the Beast, this is an excellent fantasy movie. Like, it is cinematic fantasy at its best. I think it's better than Beauty and the Beast in terms of creating that fantasy. I also think it's better than House in creating the fantasy. specifically for the ballet sequence in this movie, the ballet of the red shoes. I teared up when I saw that scene, and my mouth was dropped for like what felt like 20 minutes. Like I was like, oh gosh. I tried to even raise it. I was aware that I was having it. I raised it, and I started laughing, and my mouth just stayed down. This movie is so incredibly... Like, what else can I say? It's an incredible film to watch, guys. It is a wonderful classic film to see. It got me interested and excited to watch a dancing film, because a movie that I saw called American in Paris, which is a movie that I watched for Alicia Malone's Classic Film Club, I watched that movie, and I couldn't stand some of that movie. I just felt like the dancing scenes were just so boring. This movie combines dancing with cinema, with acting. So the performances are there, the camera work, the lighting, the cinematography, all the things that people like or film buffs and cinephiles or whatever talk about all the time, all those elements are with this movie, and the dancing is just precise and beautiful. And then there's still more movie after the ballet, which I loved. I wasn't sure if it was going to end after the ballet. The ballet happens around the halfway or a little bit after point. And yet there's still so much rich drama in it. There is a little bit of a relationship that I'm like, I don't care too much about that. But regardless, this is a wonderful, fantastic fantasy dance film, blah, 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 blah. And it's so... everything, even the opening like titles as they're going by, like just I looked at them, I paid attention, I was like, oh wow, that's good detail. The ending was even better. This is a great film, and I'm so glad I went to purchase this movie. It's well worth your time. Now the next film was a bit of an impulse, because there was a friend of mine, something I didn't talk about with my second video was I purchased a film for a friend called Nashville, which was directed by a man named Robert Altman. I don't know anything about Robert Altman. I don't know any of his films. But I was kind of fascinated because my friend said he loved that movie. He loved Robert Altman. I'm like, okay, maybe I'll give it a try. And then just so happened that there was a movie that Robert Altman directed that I've been fascinated with for years, but I've never been able to find it. And it's The Player. Now, what is The Player, you might ask? Well, The Player is about a movie executive or producer, and he is being given, basically listens to pitches for movies, and he is sent a bunch of notes that are basically death threats through postcards. It is a very interesting movie. And the reason this is an interesting movie is I have never seen a movie that has made me more uncomfortable just watching it than this film. I was on edge the entire time this movie was going, and I think I figured out why. This movie is very inspired by film noir and by Hollywood, and what's really interesting about this film is the camera work is so perfect. It seems so perfect, and the costumes, it was meant to be for the 90s, and yet the costumes are so 30s focused. You feel like you're living in a world that's very foreign to you, or at least very old-fashioned, and yet the filming is so glossy, and it's very, very odd, and it kept me feeling odd the entire time. There's even the discussion with the actors, like with Tim Robinson, the production designers and the producers, were very, very insightful. And this is a movie that when I was watching it, I was like, whoa, this is very, it's just very weird. And then I realized it's very funny. I was watching it with my dad, and there's a moment that he pointed out that I completely missed, and I just started losing my mind. It was so funny. Yeah, this is another great film off the Criterion Collection, but it's not one for everyone. Unlike The Red Shoes, I think this movie is very much geared towards people who I believe are not necessarily cinephiles, but people who are more interested in Hollywood. and more interested in like this in stories about Hollywood. It's a very it puts you on edge. If you do buy this film or do see it, I do give you some warning in advance that it will have you feeling a little weird. And I still don't know how I feel about the ending. It fits, but it's an ending I don't like. Like, it's the kind of ending that I just don't like in most movies, and yet I like it in this one, I think. I don't know. But we'll see. Those are the films that I purchased off the Criterion Collection for my fourth order. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Yeah. Take care.